Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining our today's session. Happy weekend. I know this is going to be an interesting time. Summer season, you guys all will be planning for your vacations or for some outing. So I appreciate everyone for taking out the time from your busy schedule and attending our today's session. We do have an interesting session lined up for today with one of our co-organizer of AWS User Group Madurai. Before I pass on the control to her, let me quickly go ahead and do a couple of introductions, housekeeping stuff, and then I'll pass on the control for today's session to our speaker. So this bootcamp is organized by AWS User Group Madurai. We had wonderful lines of different sessions. This initiative was been done by the folks who were the first time speaker, who were themselves learning and sharing their experiences for you guys. So this section is around the well architect review, which is the last session what we have, and the next upcoming different sessions will be more around doubt solving, the revisions, recap, and the final task. So please hold your seats. We are not done yet, but yes, this will be our last session, and then we'll have other tasks to revise and prep you for the certification. With that, before I pass on the control to the organizer, let me talk about a couple of stuff. So we all know this is event has been done in a virtual mode, and from our audience perspective, we cater the needs of all different kinds of our audience, right from of guys who have just started their journey to an experts. So please allow everyone to ask the doubts, and please do ask doubts. Our speaker is very much looking forward to make the session interactive, and I'll do personally ensure that all of your questions have been answered before we wrap up the session. So don't hesitate, put your question in the chat, and we'll be happy to take them forward. Talking about the boot camp and why exactly we started this initiative, right? So as I mentioned, this initiative is for all different kinds of audience. It's a very beginner friendly. We'll ensure that all the people who have attended all of our sessions get a certification of attendance. There will be practice tests. There will be different tasks, quiz to ensure that you're ready, you're prep, and you have confidence to go for the certifications. We'll also ensure there are giveaways. Giveaways, you have also seen different giveaways in form of quiz winners, in form of other events, as well as a chance to win a certification voucher up to 50% off if you finish the task. And last, we'll also have different doubt solving sessions. Few of them are done, few of them are in the pipeline. So please hold your seats and do subscribe and join a Slack workspace. The link is flashing on the screen, bit.ly/join AWS MDU. Please register it today itself so you are up to date with the new announcement and the new stuff. With that, let me talk about our today's session. So our today's session is episode number 12, which is around AWS Well Architect Framework. We'll go understand what is exactly this Well Architect and how exactly you can implement this. This is a very good framework, if I summarize it, to implement the best practices. And I think we have a wonderful host to cover this session. Neetu, I think the best person who can ever explain about this Well Architect. So Neetu will be here. Let me get Neetu on the stage. Hey Neetu, good evening. How are you doing today?
Hey, hi Sanchit. I'm doing good. How are you? And I hope our audience is also doing good.
Thank you. Yeah, I things like our audience should be doing good. I can see that the traction across our bootcamp is just been getting viral and viral. So I see that everyone is very much excited about this.
Great.
So yeah, Neetu, let me share your screen. Okay.
And sorry guys, I think I'm on my video because my network is fluctuating. It's raining here, so the network is a bit off. Yeah, but let's see.
No problem. No problem. Yeah, Neetu, your screen is live. You can go ahead with the session. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, good evening all, and welcome to the. This is the final session, or at least of all the sessions. This is the last session that we'll have for the bootcamp, and later on, as Sanchit already explained, there'll be doubt solving sessions. So I thank you all for being so patient with us and attending all our sessions. And I hope you guys, all of you guys who are our audiences, they do take up the story, and we become instrumental in helping them to pass on with flying colors. So with that said, let me begin with the AWS Well Architected Framework. This is more of like a summary of what we have done till date. So it is just going to cover all the services, and we'll see how they fit in to create a well architected application which can work on AWS cloud. Okay, so let's start with the general guiding principles. So this is something that we have already, we have heard a lot of times in our previous sessions. So let's go one by one. So what does the first one say? It says that stop guessing your capacity needs. So how do we do this? So if you remember, there is auto scaling, right? Auto scaling and load balancing, wherein we do not have to guess like what is going to be the capacity. If we have to scale from say a few hundred users to millions of users, then we do not have to worry about the capacity, because if we use such services like auto scaling and uh, say all the function as a service or the serverless or the managed services, then we do not have to worry about our capacity needs. Then next is using infrastructure as code as frequently as possible. So we want to automate, right? We do not want to spin up resources every time by going through the management console and spinning up resources, opening the EC2 machine image and then doing all the things manually. We want to automate it. So use infrastructure as code, that is cloud formation or YAML templates to basically create code wherein you can provide your physical resources, that is EC2 or your databases, as logical resources, and hence just you quickly of resources, just create them on the floor. That's one. Then next is testing systems at production scale. So because of the wide range of services that's present in AWS, we should be able to test. Even if we have a small application, we can understand what would be the scenario if we push it to production. So we have the way to simulate, to understand how it in the production environment. So we should be able to test it beforehand, not finally put into production and then test it, right? So and see it failing. So better we can have all those testing like penetration testing or stress testing, all of it beforehand. That's what it means. Next is design for changing requirements. Okay, so it's like talking about the agile model. So it's like if quick you have a change coming in from the customer, right? Every 2 weeks, if you have a change, then you should be able to make those changes immediately. It should not be that you're waiting for an entire month or things like the way it used to work in the waterfall model, right? When we used to wait, every change used to go after 6 months or 1 year. That should not be the way it works in the cloud. It should be very quick, and you should be able to meet the changing requirements or changing market requirements or customers requirements in time. Okay. And then simulating applications for large spikes in usage. So what does that mean is basically say you see this all these sales, right? Diwali sale, and say on Netflix there is some sale wherein you have this all these something 50% off or something on the movies, or some movies coming in quickly that people want to stream immediately. So for that you should be able to simulate it, simulate that when such sale days or such flash sales happen, how would you handle it? So that kind of simulation has to happen beforehand. So you cannot put in this on the sale day and then think of it to work. So that all those provisions are already present in AWS, so we have to make use of it. So that's what is these are the set of the general guiding principles of AWS. Okay, now let's go to the next slide. Okay, so what are the best practices in AWS? All right. So scalability, as we spoke about horizontal scaling and vertical scaling. So as per your need, either scale horizontally, that is increase increase the number of instances, or scale vertically, that is move from one, say, a smaller size of an instance, RDS instance or EC2 instance, to a bigger one, okay, based on your requirement. So that scalability should happen. Based on your requirement, you should be able to already kind of set this in it, understand like how you want to scale it. And second one is disposable resources. So when you don't need it, you switch that resource off and just dispose it off. You don't need it anymore, right? So you should be able to just delete it or terminate it and just get it off your backs. So that's what disposable resources. So these are the best practices. I mean, this is something that you have to follow when you design an application or when you think of moving to cloud. I mean, your on-premises what is it, application to cloud. If you're wanting to move the infrastructure, then this is how you should be. I mean, these are the best practices to be followed. Then automation. You have to automate everything, whether it is testing, okay, whether it is logging. So you have CloudWatch, you have Cloud Trail. So all these should be used to automate, and you have to use the infrastructure as code. All these things to automate how your system behaves or find bugs quickly. So all this has to happen automatically. Even your deployment, okay, deployment that happens through your deployment pipeline, code pipeline, right? So you have to use all these services. You have to understand how your application has to behave, and accordingly make changes and fit into these best practices. Next is loose coupling. Loose coupling, what does it mean? It means that all the systems are not kind of interconnected to each other, so that if one fails, then the next fails. That should not be the way. So you have to move from monolithic to creating smaller services which are not actually talking to each other, not hard, very well coupled, so that if one fails, then the failure is cascaded over to others. So basically, you have to keep a loose coupled framework there. Then next is services, not servers. So if you have, what this best practice means is that now if you're having a smaller, you have an on-premises infrastructure, you just cannot take the entire infrastructure and put it on the cloud and say, okay, my infrastructure has moved to cloud. No. So you have to make sure that you use all those services, and it's not just copying and pasting of all those things into the cloud. Is basically you're molding your application to adhere to the cloud principles. Okay, so you have to think in terms of services. That is your all the services that we have seen till date, right? So whether it is database related, compute related, network related, distribution related, all these, you have to think how you can use all this, and it should just not be about the infrastructure or the hardware. Okay, now let's go to, okay, so this is pillar one, pillar of the AWS well-architected framework. There are 6 frameworks. Actually, when I was giving the exam, there were 5, but then sustainability has just gotten added. So let me go to this page. I mean, this is very comprehensive. This has a lot of details on operational excellence, the design principles, all of it. So this is a white paper. If you quickly search see, you can easily come here. So that's how, this is entire paper. You can read anytime. Okay. And there are always questions on the well-architected framework in the cloud practitioner exam. The way it is put in is basically you will have multiple design principles, and they'll ask you which pillar does it belong to. That's how it's usually asked. Okay. Now let's go to the first pillar, that's on operational excellence. So the design principle here are that you have to perform operations as code. So this stands for all the we're talking about. So everything, it has to be moved into code, and it should be maintainable. I mean, it should be something that is you have some that people can, your seniors can review it, and there can be multiple level of reviews, and then it's going for from one change to another. So you have to perform. You can use Lambda, which is serverless, right? We can write a code to trigger an event, to trigger a function. So that's what it means, that you have to perform all operations in the form of a code. So you don't need to every time go to your console and start using the GUI. That's something that is used very, not used very often, because that is if to understand a new service, not basically to code in it. So therefore that you either use the CLI or the CDK. Okay. Next is make frequent, small, and reversible changes. So what that means is that you need to make small changes every time. It's not like you are making, once in a month or once in 6 months, you're making a change, big change. So it's not maintainable. So in the cloud, whenever you're making changes, keep making small, frequent changes and something which is reversible. That means that you can go back to it. If you say so, store code in a repository, right? You can always go back to the previous version. So you should be able to do that. Annotate documentation. So you need to document all this. If you have seen the AWS documentation, right, it is quite precise. So you need to document and you need to annotate everything that you so that every change that you make and everything that you write as a code, you have to document it. Next is refine operation procedures frequently. So you need to keep on thinking how you can improve. AWS keeps on improving its services. It keeps on adding new services. So you should be up to date with it. At least, kind of you have to have some understanding of what changes are coming up and how you can use it to make your application better. Okay, how you can use it to make your deployment better. So you should keep frequently refining your operation procedures. Next is anticipate failure. So in the cloud, there is usually the principle that failures are unavoidable. It would happen, but then you have to fail fast. That is, you have to be able to recover quickly from what is happening. So you should be able to, most of the time you should be able to anticipate that a failure is going to occur. And for that, you're doing all this simulation, you're doing all this testing, so you should be able to find bugs in the application and do it. You're trying to simulate your application for a flash day sale. So you should be able to anticipate such failures, and you should be able to learn from all operation failures. So even whenever there are operational failures, you should be able to learn from them. Okay. Now let's go to the next. Okay, so what are the services, okay, which are related to this pillar? So also try to remember this. I mean, what all services are linked to a particular pillar, okay, because this also comes up in the exam. So for preparing for that operational excellence, we have to use the cloud formation. Use AWS config. Okay. And for operational parts, same cloud formation, AWS config, AWS Cloud Trail, okay, to know a Cloud Watch to log for logging purposes, X-ray, okay. Then to evolve, that is continuously make changes into your application, you have to use Cloud Formation, right? Because you are going to maintain everything as code. Then you use code build, code commit, code deploy, and your code pipeline. These are all the features of the code pipeline, wherein everything is integrated, and one of your change will go through the entire process. Right? So let's go to the next one. Right. So next pillar is on security. So what's the design principle behind it? It's about implementing a strong identity foundation. So what does that mean? You have to make use of services such as IAM. Okay. So you have to work on the principle of least privilege. That is, you have to give only the access only to the users as much as they need, not more than that. So only how much ever they should be knowing, only those services should be accessible by them, and only you can restrict to what feature of a service is also available to them, whether only read or only write is available to those users. So you can go down up to that level. Same way you have STS. So all these ways you have access keys. So all these ways you can kind of build a strong foundation wherein only the required users are allowed to access your application. Enable traceability. So that is done by enabling all your logs, right? So all the logging, that is CloudWatch or CloudTrail, all these logs, so that because CloudWatch is integrated with most of the services. So whenever there's something wrong, right, in a service, or some services working erratically, or your code change has affected something, then easily you can understand through the security at all layers. So all the layers of your application, right? So whether it is model or whether it is so all at all those levels there has to be, right? The access should be minimal to the required people, and there should be kind of a way of reviewing your changes, what you do. Right now, next is automating your security best practices. So you can't, I mean, every time that a person comes in, or your there's a new addition to your team, you don't want to do the entire do the setup for that person again. So try to automate it. Okay, so automating your security best practices is the way. I mean, of the is one of the ways you can strengthen the security of your data in transit and at rest. So this is basically your S3, right? Your S3, your when you're moving your data from S3 to outside, I mean, to another service, or from another service to S3, you always have to encrypt data, so that you have to even when anything outside from the internet, any user is trying to access your S3, you should be ensuring that they do not have a direct access. Okay? It's going through some authentication before that. So that way you have to always protect your data and keep people away from data. Okay, so people should not be having access to data. Okay, they can access, like they can access a particular service and the way, I mean, writing of the code, but they only the relevant people should have access to what to the data part of your application. Okay? Then preparing for security events. So whenever there is such a security event, so how do you mitigate it, right? If there is any kind of there is a bad actor who is trying to create some issues in your application, so how do you prevent that? So all these things have to be handled and have to be taken care of when you're designing your application in cloud. Okay, so what comes under identity and access management? It's IAM, there's AWS STS, there's MFA tokens. Okay, so every user, you always provide a 2-level authentication. You have your MFA, so that no one is able to log into your, other than you, no one is able to access your system or your user. Then AWS organizations. So through AWS organizations, you can basically say, like, you can segregate into different departments, right? Finance, HR, your developer, so junior developers, senior developers. So what kind of access has to be given to each one of them, you can equally decide on that. So next is the detective control. So AWS config, whenever there is a config change in your configuration change in your application, right, in any of the services, so that can be understood through AWS config. Then there is AWS Cloud Trail. Okay, there is Amazon Cloud logging for logging related, and whenever there is any the behavior of a service changes, so to understand that. Then infrastructure protection. So you have your CloudFront, you have VPC, you have Shield, WAF, and Inspector. So basically, this is whenever your say your multiple users are trying to access your application. So when they this, as I said, they should not be able to access it directly. You should have all these controls behind it. So you have CloudFront, which will do all the content distribution. Then you have VPC, which will secure your your infrastructure. You have Shield and WAF, which works a lot. So all these things have to be in place to protect your application, your infrastructure, basically. Then data protection. Data protection you will do through KMS, that is key management. Then S3, you will have load balancing, right? And you have so where we saw, right, in the EC2, that EC2 session, that we directly do not give access to the EC2 servers. There is a load balancer, and that through the load balancer you do not know, but that's it automatically does the segregation of where the request has to go. So there should be a kind of protection before your application. That's what it means. And then there is EBS and there is RDS. Okay, so there is database services, then there is hardware related, network related storage, which is EBS. Then there is incident response. So when you have a security event, how do you understand it? How do you mitigate it? So through IAM, okay, like you have to restrict access to whoever is trying to play some do some mischief on your application. Then there is AWS Cloud Formation to understand what has changed. So that basically gives you an understanding of what got changed in your code, in your resources. And there is CloudWatch events to understand like what went wrong and where in the application. Let's go to pillar 3, that is reliability. So you have to test recovery procedures. You have to test. You are trying to mitigate, okay, from any failure. You're trying to anticipate failure, but how do you recover from such failures? So you have to have those procedures in place, and you have to test it beforehand so that when any of these things happen, so you are able to recover quickly from the failure that has occurred. Okay, so automatically recovering from failure, as I said, the principle of failing fast. So whenever there is if there is a failure, even after you try to anticipate it, if there is a failure, then you should be able to recover quickly from it. It should not be taking much time. So you have to test all the recovery procedures beforehand. Then scale horizontally to aggregate system availability. So this is about horizontal scaling. That means if you want to make your system available, so you have to make it available across different availability zones, right? So that's how you scale horizontally. So scaling horizontally means that you have to make your instances available in different availability zones, so that it's always, if one fails, another is always available. Okay, next is stop guessing capacity. Same, I think we spoke about it in the guiding principles as well. You should not be wanting to think about how many numbers of database instances you would need, how many number of EC2 instances you would need. So what capacity of compute you need, from what capacity of storage you need. So basically all this has to be handled, automatically in the cloud. That's its principle, right? So that has to already handle itself. Then managing change and automation. So every time there is a change, and you should be automating that. Okay, let's go to how it works. So the foundational services in reliability, for the reliability pillar, are IAM, VPC, service limits, and trusted advisor. So through these are the foundational layers. So through IAM or VPC, you can prevent, right? So you can always anticipate and you can always recover using all your security controls in VPC, or say service limits. You can limit to what level the service is being used, things like that. Then change management. In change management, it is auto scaling. Then there's CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and AWS config. So this is basically to check like what went wrong and immediately kind of have it in place to quickly recover, kind of scale horizontally based on the changes. And if there is say in AWS config, it tells you what has changed in your application, in the service, from what it was before, right? So that way you can always check and you can track using CloudWatch, like what went wrong and why is that change has occurred. Failure management, you have to have backups. You have to have read replicas. You have to have cloud formation in place. You have to have S3 Glacier. So you keep backups into the Glacier, right? And Glacier archive. So those are helpful when you want failure management. So you can quickly bring back your data from the backup and restore it. Then there's Amazon Route 53. Okay. Let's go to the next pillar, that's performance efficiency. So this design principle is about democratizing advanced technologies. So you should always try to, as I said, you should be aware of what are the changes happening in the ecosystem, AWS or the cloud ecosystem, and you should be able to leverage the new technologies that are coming up in the market, which can be used with with the AWS services to make your the performance more efficient, okay, or your automation more efficient. So you have to keep thinking about that. It's not that the picture about what the main message here is that once you put something on the cloud, it's not just that you put it there and you forget about it. No, you have to keep on evolving your application. You have to mold it in a way that it fits into the cloud principles. That's what is important. So it's just stresses on that. All these pillars is stress on that. You have to keep on changing your architecture, changing your application to fit into the mold of the cloud principles. Okay, go global in minutes. So that's one of the principles of cloud itself. So you have it, I mean, using edge location, using multiple availability zones, you should be able to go global. I mean, if you have from say 100 users to billion users around the world, you should be able to do it quickly in minutes. It should not take much time. So that's the beauty of cloud, right? So using serverless architectures. Serverless architectures basically means that you use, like, there is a lot of stress on these days on using Lambda and all these services which do not API gateways, which do not have servers behind. I mean, you do not have to take care of the servers running, right? So so you have Aurora. So all these things you have to, you have to use these services, or you have to use these architectures, serverless architectures, to make your the performance of your application better. You have to experiment more often. So experimenting more often means that you have to see, okay, this I mean, because they're in the cloud, because there are around 200, 300 services, you have a number of services which perform the same task, okay, but there is a slight difference here and there. So you should be able to pick, okay, if not, this is not working as per my need, can I move to the next one and use that and see if that works perfectly? So you always keep on experimenting, keep on moving from one service to another, trying to see which are similar, okay, which perform the similar kind of tasks, and then try to make your application more efficient. Next is mechanical sympathy. So mechanical sympathy means the same thing. That is, you have to be aware of what all changes AWS is doing in its services ecosystem, and how you can use it to make the performance of your system better. Okay, so let's see what all are the services here. So for selection, it is like auto scaling, Lambda, EBS, your simple storage service S3, and RDS. Okay, so these are the services that will help you make your system more efficient. So like Lambda, right, which is a serverless architecture, so you don't have to kind of don't have to worry about what servers are being used in the backend, right? Similarly, auto scaling, you quickly just spin up multiple resources. If one fails, other works, right? So same thing for S3 and EBS. Now for review, right? So review you do through CloudFormation. So the main stress is that you should always have your code in the form of your application in the form of a code. That is it's easy to review and to kind of make changes in. Then there is AWS News Blog. So here also they'll keep showing. I mean, if you see, I'll be showing it in the further slides. But if you check that news blog, there will always be what is newly happening and how AWS is helping its customers, become more efficient, or kind of. And there are many success stories. So definitely that's a very good read. So every day there are additions, and you can definitely you should check it. Right. So next is monitoring. Monitoring you will do through CloudWatch logs and through Lambda. Next is trade-offs. So you have RDS, you have Elasticache. So trade-offs is basically like what will you use, right? If you want to it depends on what is your requirement. You want to have data in the database, or you want to quickly access it and during the startup, so you put it into a cache rather than holding it in the database. You have it in the cache also. So you can use multiple services together. So RDS, Elasticache, you have Snowball, and then there is Amazon CloudFront. So it's basically deciding what is best for your application. Next is cost optimization. So you here the design principle says that you adopt a consumption mode. Okay, you will, see, here in the cloud, what you want to do is you want to pay as per what you use. Okay, and you want to get the maximum benefit from the as much less cost as possible, right? So you have to adopt a particular consumption mode. You have to decide whether you want reserved, you want spot instances, right? And so that's how you kind of decide on what kind of consumption you want for your application needs. Then you have to measure overall efficiency. Okay, so you have to always keep on checking whether your application is efficient enough, or whether you can do something to make it more efficient. So you have to keep a count on what is the percentage of efficiency that it has. Okay, stop spending money on data center operations. Yeah, so that's basically that you kind of don't what is it you do not have to have your infrastructure in a particular data center. Everything is done on the cloud, so you don't have to think of spending money expenditure on the data center management itself, right? Then analyze and attribute expenditure. So here, what we have seen, the tags, right? Tags that we use in each and every service in AWS has a tagging, right? So you give like what is the name of say instance, or which department is used in. So all these tagging, right? This helps you finally to decide. I mean, when you get a report, okay, you analyze what is your cost. So it tells you department wise what is your cost. Tells you instance wise what is your cost. So it can go to that granular level. So you should always kind of tag each and every like service, compute or storage service that you use, and you should make sure that everything is accounted for. Okay. Next is use of managed and application level services. They can offer low cost per service. Okay. So managed and applications. So there are services which are completely managed by AWS, right? So that using that and using like what is a good fit for your application. Based on that, you can get a very low price to what your application is going to use, right? So your cost optimization is basically trying to understand how you can maximize your performance and maximize the usage, but also in a reduced cost. Okay, so you are not paying much as you'd usually pay, and how can you get a optimized cost for your application working on the cloud. Okay. So how do you become aware of your expenditure? That is your expenditure of your application. So there is AWS budgets. So we did set up, like when we were working on EC2, right? We did set up first thing we went through was a budget. So you set up what budget, how much you are willing to spend, okay, on per month, and then you keep a track of it. You have alarms, right? So that's how you become aware of what you're spending. Then cost and usage report, that gives you very detailed report, very granular reporting using your tags that you have applied on each of your service. It will give you granular details about what is costing, how much and where. Then there is cost explorer. Then there is reserved instance reporting. So all this is for reporting of what is the expenditure. Cost effective services, that is spot instance, as we saw, that gives you the maximum benefit. Then reserved instances, depending on whether you're willing to reserve it for 1 or 3 years, accordingly you can get cost effectiveness. Then there is S3 glacier, whatever data you're not going to use, or say you have a backup, you want your database to be backed up, say for these many set of months, then move it to glacier. So that way it will become more cost effective. So you have to continuously keep checking what where you can make changes in the application, make it more cost effective, make it more performance efficient. Matching supply and demand, for that it's auto scaling and Lambda. Optimizing over time, that is AWS Trusted Advisor, AWS Cost and Usage Report, and AWS Newsblog. Let's go to the next one. This is pillar 6, sustainability. I've not stopped for any questions, so let me do it post this because it's the last pillar. So let me complete this and then we'll go for any questions that you guys have. Okay, so here the design principle is understanding your impact. So sustainability, right? This is something which aligns with the AWS's goals for making your as what is it? Greenhouse efficient. Your infrastructure can be made as energy efficient, okay, less emissions, and how you can reduce the carbon footprint. All these things are what is has become sustainability. It's a goal that they want to achieve by I think 2025 or 2030. So according to that, they have put in this new pillar. So you have to understand the impact that your infrastructure is having on the environment. Okay, so you have to establish sustainability goals. Okay, you have to kind of understand like how much is sustainable, how much you can get away with. If there are some like stopping the instances when they are not in use, or stopping getting rid of uh, any service or any storage or any networking system, it's not used, right? So kind of establishing your sustainability goals around that, maximizing utilization, anticipating and adopting new more efficient hardware and software offerings. So as I said, continuously AWS is trying to kind of um, bring up new services, making new changes, kind of reduce the amount of time taken to uh, compute. Okay, so like with the graviton the graviton instance that just came up, so there are a lot of new changes happening, so you need to keep on adopting efficient hardware and software services that they bring in. Then use managed services, so it's same like AWS managed services would be more sustainable than what we would like the services that are handled by the user. So these are like EC2 auto scaling and serverless offerings like Lambda and Fargate. Okay, these are the services which can be used to make your system more or your application more sustainable. Then there is Cost Explorer. There is AWS Graviton 2. There is a and something which is which is a very fast processor that AWS has bought on the market. EC2T instances, okay, and Spot instances. Then there are EFS. So these are all the services that we can see here. EFS IA, that is something which is not the file system, right? If it's not being used for a long time, the data is not being used, and moves to an like accessible, kind of a backup area. So it moves there. That if it is intermittently accessible, it will move to that area. So that if you don't need a particular set of data, right, or files, if you don't need a set of files, then move it to that area so that we can reduce the amount of we can back it up. We don't need it right now at the moment. Same way S3 Glacier, that objects that you don't need in the S3, you can move it to the Glacier. Then EBS cold STD volumes. Then you have S3 lifecycle configurations, S3 intelligent tiering. So that is basically you say that if you continuously move your data based on where how it's being used, you move it. You configure a life cycle for it so that it moves to different tiers of S3. Okay. Then you have Amazon Data Lifecycle Manager. You have read local, write global, RDS read replicas, Aurora Global DB, Dynamo Global DB, and CloudFront. So these are like it's how you can reduce. You can make your system more sustainable and reduce the its impact on the. Sorry, just a second. Yeah. Okay, let's go. Yeah. So before going here, yeah, any questions up to this section?
No, not anything, Neetu. I think there's one question around the reference blog, right, around the Well Architect. I think that's your next slide.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Before we go to that the blog section. This is a small section on right sizing. Okay. So what is basically right sizing? It is to understand like what kind of instances, or what if you have a particular application, you have a workload, right? What kind of instances or compute or network storage you would need to basically get the required performance, okay, at the lowest possible cost. It means that you don't want to compromise on the performance, but you want the lowest possible cost that you can get. So you accordingly you match what kind of instance type or the size you need. Okay. So like spot instances or reserved instances, and what size you want. Like we saw, right? Size is basically your micro or small or large or Excel. So these are what kind of instances and what size you need to maintain your workloads performance, but also at the same time getting the lowest cost. Cost benefit out of this whole exercise. So how do you do right sizing? Right sizing does not just happen before the migration. It should happen continuously even after your application is on the cloud. So that's what I told you guys before in the slides. That is, you do not just put your entire infrastructure, whatever you're doing on premise, just onto the cloud and forget about it. No, you have to continuously improve your architecture, improve your application, so that it becomes it becomes more efficient over time and your cost reduces. Okay, so that's what it says, that before cloud migration and continuously after the cloud onboarding process. Okay, next is these are all the this is the ecosystem of AWS. I mean, there are AWS blogs, there are forums, there are white papers, there are quick starts, there are solutions. Okay, so if I go like one by one, just a second. Yeah, this one. Okay, this is what I was talking about. Like if you see right on, so how they are making how they're helping, how AWS is helping the customers, what all new changes are there, all these things are, if you are serious about getting into the cloud, better, in the morning when you get up, just if you go through this, right, it has a lot of information and also a lot of like changes that are coming in. Okay. Then there is AWS repost, like here, these are forums. Basically, if you want any kind of help, right, you are building something and you want help on that, so that's what it tells you here what all questions were asked to AWS, AWS the technical guys, and how it was resolved. All these things you can find it here on the AWS forum. Then there are white papers. So white papers are basically so these are like about how you can improve, same way as a well architected framework. I think there are a well architected framework is also one white paper. So similarly, like how you can, what kind of best practices you can use, how you can make your system more efficient. All those details are mentioned. All those white papers are mentioned here. You can go through them over time to understand like how you can make it more scalable and things like that. Next is AWS quick starts. So these are gold standard deployments. We are here already. Okay. These are basically this is something that you can spin up quickly, but yeah, it is not in the free tier. So you can say if you want. There's a serverless transit orchestrator. These are gold standards that are built by AWS. Okay, so they tell you how things work. So you have all this solution overview. This is how this application. This is a serverless transit network orchestrator. So you can launch it. You can view the implementation guide. You can see what cost would be associated with it. So this is already built in. You just need to deploy it and see. I mean, but yeah, this is not in the free tier, so you will get some cost if you try to do this. Okay. And these are gold standards, so I think there will be quite a good amount of cost around it. And this is the solutions library. So for each, like every industry, right, what kind of solutions have been have been given, things like that, with respect to technology, all these things you can find. And these are all, this you can search anytime. I mean, these are very quickly available through Google itself. You can do it. So okay, next is, yeah. So this is about support, right? So there are questions around this. I mean, if you are a developer, I mean, you take a developer support, then what is included? What would be the general guidance time? What would be the system impaired time? If you are in the business, I mean, you're a business, you have opted for business support, then what all are the facilities provided? So all these things, right, would be part of the question. I mean, you have these questions as part of the practitioner exam. At least one or two would be there. So you should at least have, you should have a good understanding of this, and you should kind of make sure to read through this. For developer, there is only business hours email access. You don't have call access, so you can only put emails, and that is only during business hours they'll answer it, the cloud support associate. Then there's general guidance time of less than 24 business hours. And if the system, your system is impaired, I mean, you have a system, you have an application on AWS, and you are having a developer support, then if your system is not working, then they'll take less than 12 business hours to reply back and to fix it. For business support, you have 24 by 7 phone, email, and chat access to cloud support engineers. You have, if the production system is getting impaired, then within less than 24 hours, you will get the help and you'll be able to fix it. If the production system is down, is entirely down, then within 1 hour, they'll help you and they'll help you fix this. If you are on the enterprise support, then you have to have, you'll get an access to the TAM, that is a technical account manager. You will have a concierge support team to help you with the billing, purpose billing, and account related. I mean, how you can do, I mean, what kind of best practices you can use to implement billing and account, organizations, AWS organization, how you can make it better. So all those kind of guidance you will get. And if the business critical system itself down, then within 15 minutes it will help you to bring it up. So that it's that quick, and it's quite pricey as well. Next, okay. Then there are training and partner network. Okay, there are technology partners. So APN technology partners are people who will provide you hardware, connectivity, software. Okay, all these things. Consulting partners will give you like details about guidance about how to build your application, or how to move your what changes you want to do in your application if you're moving it to AWS. So that kind of professional services help they'll provide. So it's more of like a consulting role. Then APN training partners. So you will basically, they'll help you learn AWS. They'll train you. Okay, so these are the partners. I mean, they're external partners whom AWS has, here it has recognized them, and through them you can learn AWS. Then AWS competency program. So here you'll get, I mean, the APN partners, right? All these partners, technology, consulting, and training. With if they have proven customer success, then they'll be granted this program. Then APN Navigate program, it helps partners become better partners. So it's basically for the partners. I mean, these technology and consulting partners, it's available for them. Then there is Knowledge Center. Let's go to Knowledge Center. Okay. So these are all the. So you can, I mean, see, you have all these questions, right? I mean, based on the years and the questions that they have received, AWS has written basically a comprehensive. It's like, what happens? See, like, why is my EC2 instance becoming unresponsive? It's basically like the way you search on Google, like this thing is not working, what to do. So basically, the same way, whatever questions they have found from their customers, they have documented it, and they have given these and how you can resolve them. Okay, so these things have been mentioned. So this is also quite helpful. Okay. So here's the quiz. So before into that, any questions? And I think one thing, just a second, let me go through I missed out on one thing.
No, Neetu, I don't see a question here.
Okay, no issues. Okay. Okay, so if you're moving your architecture, or if you already have, like we said, right, every time, it's not just about while moving to cloud. Even within the cloud, you have your application. You have to check every time whether you have, whether it is adhering to the best practices. If there is some place you can improve, so if even for that, they have given a tool, so that this tool basically works on your well architected framework, the framework that they have defined. And if you go here. Okay. Just a second. It's taking some time. Just bear with me. Okay. So here, so there is no pricing. Okay, associated. This free to use the well architected tool. You'll have to go and say you have to give a you have to give the owner. I'm not going to put in the details. I'm just showing you like how it will be used. You the owner details. You give what production your workload is running in, whether it's production or pre. I mean, sorry, what environment it is running in, whether it is production or pre-production, what region it is running in. Okay, if it is on premise, you mention it's an on premise. Okay, or if it's other cloud provider, other vendor, then you provide that account IDs. You give the design, architectural design details. You give what industry it belongs to. So all these things, right, it takes into consideration. And like let's do something here. Just a second. Let's see if it is all anything is applicable here. Okay, let me do this. Let's say come on. Okay, so it will apply all these lenses. Okay, it will apply AWS well architect FTR or the FTR. Then it will apply a serverless lens. It's basically trying. I mean, it is kind of trying to analyze your architecture based on all these. I mean, you'll say what kind of lens you have to apply, and accordingly it will apply, and it will give you a kind of detailed description of what is where you can improve and how you can make your system efficient. This is how it is done. Okay, so going back to the quiz, Okay, let me read out the questions. What are the design principles of performance efficiency? Go global in minutes, analyze and attribute expenditure and stop spending on data center operations, make frequent small irreversible changes and anticipate failure, automate security best practices. So you have to select any one of it. Similarly, next is AWS Cost Explorer and AWS Trusted Advisor are examples of which well-architected framework pillar, whether it is security, operational efficiency, cost optimization, or performance efficiency. So this is basically, I mean, these are the types of questions that you can expect in the cloud practitioner exam. Okay. So yeah, I think we would have giveaways for people who answer this and people who answered this first. So our audience, I think I'll just open it up. I mean, I'll give you 5 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes to answer it. You can just answer it in the forum that you're watching.
Thanks, Neetu, for sharing this quiz. So, yeah, as Neetu mentioned, I will request all the participants to please go through both the questions and put the answers in a given sequence, like question one and question two, in the chat. What we are going to do is we'll collate all the answers, we'll go offline and give the winners. We'll announce the winners in our Slack channel. So, please do participate in the quiz. We'll have roughly around 2 minutes to answer this. I don't see any answers yet. Please do answer it. The questions are pretty simple. What are the design principles of performance efficiency? Option A, global in minutes. Option B, analyze and attribute expenditures and stop spending on data center operations. Option C, make small, frequent, irreversible changes and anticipate failures. Option D, automate security practice. So that's question one. If I talk about question two, AWS Cost Explorer and Trusted Advisor are example of which well architect framework pillar. Option A, security. Option B, operational efficiency. Option C, cost optimization. Option D, performance efficiency. Those are the two questions. Please put your answers in the chat. We have roughly a minute to go.
Come on, guys. Now there are giveaways attached to these questions. So people who
Yep.
answer it first, yeah.
Okay. 30 seconds to go, guys. We have rewards for the quiz for the winners. So please post your answers. Time's up. I don't see any answer, Neetu.
Okay.
Can you give the answers
Yeah.
to the participants?
We want to give it now, or we should give it
Yeah, we
offline?
can give it offline. Yes, you can continue.
Right? Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So now, so we are done with the well-architected framework. There are certain services which come up, like one or two questions about them might come up in the exam. So I thought I'll just cover it. Like it is very, I mean, I am covering it. This is not to be known in depth, but yeah, you just need to know that these services exist. Okay. So there's something called AWS Workspaces. So here, basically, what it does is it's a managed desktop as a service. So you get, I mean, if you want desktops, right? You do not have to kind of the virtual desktops are made available through AWS Workspaces. If you're from on-premises, your user wants to, or your users want to access your desktop and then access the cloud or your on-premises software. So that can be done through AWS Workspace. There's a service dedicated for that. So you'll have secure access to both your on-premises data center here and your AWS cloud. So through AWS Workspaces. Okay. Next is Amazon AppStream. So before we go into the kind of details of what AppStream, I mean what both are. I mean because both of them seem similar, they are not. Okay, Amazon AppStream is basically something which will provide you kind of a managed, your application you can access through web browser. Okay, so it can allow you to what is that? Access your desktop applications through your web browser, while Workspace is more of your managed virtual desktop. Okay, so here you see that it's what is the difference between the two? So because it might happen that they could ask you a question and they could confuse you between Workspaces or AppStream. So Workspace is basically a fully managed virtual desktop. Okay, users can connect to the VDI. Okay, and they are always on. They're on demand. I mean, you can just spin them up when you need it, and they are always on. So when you do not need it, you close them down. But they can always be. You can spin them up as you need. Okay. Then AppStream 2.0. This is basically your allowing you to access your desktop applications through your web browser. Okay, this works with any device. Okay, and you can kind of configure one instance type per application. That is, you can say like uh, for this application you want. I mean, you can kind of the way you have tabs right in your browser. Same way you can have multiple applications on multiple web browser tabs. Something like that. Okay. Then there is Amazon Sumerian. Sumerian is basically something which allows you to create 3D virtual reality or augmented reality applications. Okay, so it's for this you do not basically need. I mean, it is completely you can develop it from scratch, or even if you don't. I mean, you don't have to. Sorry, you don't have to develop it from scratch. There are already. It is a very. It's a tool which is very helpful. It's a service which is very helpful to create these applications. So you do not need to be an expert. You can, but go and create such applications in AWS. Then there is IoT Core. So what this does is that you can connect your IoT. IoT is your Internet of Things. So your smart phone or your smart car or your smart AC. You can connect all these devices to AWS Cloud. Okay, you can like monitor their working from the cloud. So it is serverless. It is, and it can scale to, like, it can handle, if you see, there are billions of services and trillions of messages. So it is very scalable. It can handle a lot. I mean, data from different inputs, right? So you can have lot of applications connected to IoT Core, and it can handle all the traffic of the behavior of each of those applications. Okay, it integrates with Lambda, S3, and SageMaker. What is so you do not need to know all these things in detail. You just have to know what it is useful for. Then there's Elastic Transcoder. This basically what it does is that it converts media files. Okay, all these JPEG or your video files, JPEG photo files or video files. Okay, it's which are stored in S3. It will convert into a format which will be supported by your, say, tablet or phone. Okay, so what it does is that from one S3, your media files go into the Elastic Transcoder, and they get converted into the format which you want on your playback device, and then it will go to another S3 from where your playback device can access it. So that's the use of the Elastic Transcoder. Then there is a device farm. So if you have, say, mobile applications in your system, right? I mean, you want to check whether how it would work for, say you have a same application but it works on your desktop as well as your laptop or your tablet or your phone. So you want to simulate how this would work, right? So you have the device farm. So that's a service which will test your application against real devices. Okay, so it's not like it's kind of spinning up something. It's actual real devices. They are not what is it they're not trying to just simulate it. They're actually creating that real device, and then testing those applications on it. This device farm, AWS backup. So this is a managed service, okay, which helps you to take backups across all AWS services. So it helps you to get cross region. I mean, across regions you can take a backup, or across accounts you can take backup. So you can, if you have multiple accounts in your organization, you can take backup for that. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. And yeah, so this is a service which helps you with that. Okay. So there are disaster recovery. Okay, this is important because this also will come up. I mean, uh, not in detail, but you need to know like what strategy will help you to get the maximum cost efficiency, and what's the difference between each, right? So you have to kind of understand this properly. So what here? Okay, what happens here is basically backup, and there are four strategies. Let's take first two, backup and restore. Okay, back in backup and restore, what happens is that data from your on premises is stored on S3. Okay, it is just backed up. Okay, and when needed, it will be restored from this S3. But this is something which is simple. Okay, your servers are just, I mean, there's no application. Your data is between. Sorry, just a second. I'll just have some water. Okay, so your data is getting backed up on an S3 as in the S3 service, and it will get restored as and when you need. Okay, so there is the maximum. If you see this cost, right, there is maximum benefit you get out of it. Was the least, the cost associated with it is the least of all. Okay, then there is Pilot Lite. In Pilot Lite, what would happen is that your web server on your data center, it will be replicated on your AWS cloud, but only the core functions of the application. Okay, I mean, what minimal would your application need to run? Okay, so those core functions would be already available, and they'll be set. They'll be ready to scale, and it would have minimal setup. It won't be like the entire application, but whatever core functionality is needed for your application to work, they'll be ready. Okay, so that's why it's called Pilot Lite. Okay, it is just ready. Okay, the moment you need it, it will be ready to as an application, but only the core functionality would be there. So there is some cost. The cost is a bit higher than backup and restore. Okay, that's why the cost is shown as like this. Sorry. Okay, then there is warm standby. What does warm standby mean? It means that the full version, I mean the entire application, is present on an EC2 instance. Okay, but at minimum size. Okay, so they'll take a small instance, and then put your entire application. What is the best fit for your application? The smallest version of that they'll take of the instance, and they'll put it, and they'll keep it ready. Okay, so the cost is a bit on the higher side. Okay, then there is the multi-site and hot site. Sorry. So in that, on multiple, EC2 instances, the full version of the application would be present at full size. So whatever is the right instance type needed for the application that will be found, and across, it will be ready across site. Okay, across different availability zone, the full version would be available. So the moment there is any failure, it will fall back to those instances. So the cost is the maximum here. Then there is elastic disaster recovery. Okay, so here, okay, so this is, sorry, I just kind of moved quite fast. Okay, so these are the four disaster recovery strategies: backup and restore, Pilot Lite, warm standby, and multi-site hot site. So multi-site hot site is the costliest of all. And just try to remember what it means to have, to be classified as warm standby or multi-site. Next is a service called elastic disaster recovery. So what happens here is that you can easily recover if there is a failure on your on-premises, physical, virtual, or your cloud-based servers into it. You can kind of recover them into AWS. How does that happen? Is it basically, you might have cloud-based servers like AWS Outpost, right? That would be present in your corporate data center, or you'll have physical or virtual kind of servers in your data center. So at that time, what it does is that there's an AWS replication agent. So the OS, apps, DB, everything is being continuously replicated. Okay, first in an low-cost EC2 instance. I mean, in low-cost EC2 instances with EBS volumes. Okay, so it is the data, everything is being staged here. The moment there is a failure, okay, in the failover will happen to, I mean, it will move to a production scale, okay, which is a higher EC2 instance with greater EBS volume, okay, which with greater storage of EBS volume, and it will, in minutes it will fail over and it will go to product to that that instance. And the moment your corporate data center is back up, I mean, if there was a failure, or if any other cloud vendor, okay, not just corporate data center, any other cloud vendor, if you're using along with AWS, then all those things, all those data would be backed up. And the moment that your cloud, the corporate data center is back up, it will fail back. So immediately it will fail, go back to the data center. I mean, from there your applications will start working. So just in case there is any failure in the corporate data center, it will help you to keep your application running. So this is how it does disaster recovery. Okay, the moment there is a failure in one data center or one cloud vendor. Data sync. Okay, so this is to move lots of data. Okay, whatever data you have on your on-premises, you move it to AWS. Okay, and you store it based on what kind of data it is, whether it is object storage or whether it is file storage. You'll move it to S3 or FSX or EFS. Okay, and the replication, how it happens is that first time entirely it will be replicated. Next time it will keep checking. I mean, next time it will just check what change has occurred between your first load and this load. Okay, and only that will be moved to AWS. That means it is incrementally doing the replication. So first time full, and later on whatever is what it does it in increments. Whatever has changed, only that moves, not the entire thing every time. So it saves time on that. So your on-premises server, it has an AWS data sync agent running. Similarly, there is an AWS data sync here, the service here. So it talks to the data sync agent and gets all the data and it stores it here in S3, EFS, or FSX Windows file server. Okay. So there is something called fault injection simulator as well. So what this does is that it will check, like I said, right? We have to always keep checking when where it can fail, where your application can fail. So there, what you do is basically you implement the principles of chaos engineering. What you do is you keep on kind of stressing your instance, saying that, okay, you kind of stress your instance, you increase the CPU capacity to say 100%, and you see what will happen. Okay, what happens when something, I mean, how your application behaves, will it stop, will it fail over, what will happen? So basically those you can perform such in experiments on your AWS workloads. Okay, so how is this done? This fault injection simulator, this service will create an experiment template. It will start running on this, I mean, it will run on your resources, and it will monitor using CloudWatch and Event Bridge. It will monitor what is happening on all these services. And okay, if it is completed, then it will be stopped. I mean, the moment otherwise it will send off an alarm saying what is wrong. Okay, similarly you will also view results as to what is I mean, what went wrong, what was the performance during those times when you were stress testing it, what how resilient your system is. All these things you can observe from this experiment. Okay, and yeah, so I think we have completed other services also. Any questions, or we can go to the quiz?
I don't see any questions here, but yeah, I would request everyone, please put your questions in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. But yeah, Neetu, I think we can go ahead with the quiz.
Okay. Fine.
Let
Which
me read out.
AWS? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let
we
me
want
read
to
out
do
the
that?
quickly.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Which AWS? So there are two questions again, like we had the last quiz. Which AWS services can be used to test your application across desktop browsers and mobile device? There are four options. Option 1, IoT Core. Option 2, App Stream 2.0. Option 3, Workspaces. Option 4, Device Farm. Which AWS services can be used to test your application across desktop and mobile devices? Uh, Please do answer the question 1. Let's go. Let me go with the question 2. A hybrid company would like to provision desktop to their employees so they can access securely both the AWS cloud and their data center. Which AWS services can help? A. Workspaces. B. AppStream 2.0. C. Site to site VPN. D. Sumarine. A hybrid company would like to provision desktop to their employees so they can access securely both the AWS cloud and their data center, which AWS services can help for. Please put the answers for both of the questions in the chat. We'll have approximate 2 minutes, like we did in the previous quiz. And please do participate because the winners will get some sort of a rewards. So please do participate in the quiz. We see people have started posting the answers. Please do it. All the folks who have not answered yet, please do answer both the questions. We have a minute to go. 30 seconds to go, guys. Please do answer both the questions. Time's up, guys. So yeah, I think we're done with the quiz two.
Yeah.
Uh, I think there are a couple of folks who have answered the questions. We'll go through your answers offline across different of our other forums, and we'll announce the winners in the Slack workspace. That's correct, right, Neetu?
Yes. Yes. Right.
Correct.
Okay, I think we have come to the end of the session, and I think I'd like to thank the audience for being patient and kind of attending all our sessions. We would really like you guys to take up. I mean, I hope we help you guys to take up the exam. And through our sessions, we have helped you guys understand, and this gives you guys the confidence to take up the CCP exam and join our Slack group and give us I mean, let us know. I mean, if you are going to, and would be really happy to help you guys as well. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm done, Sanchit. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Neetu. Thanks for that wonderful session today, talking about well architect reviews and the other services covering the entire syllabus which is required for cloud practitioner. With that, I want to call out a couple of reminders for the folks, for the participants. Um so first one is we are running out of our deadline. So today is the last day for submitting the task 3, which is around database deploying and managing the infrastructure. So if you have not participated yet, please do it today. The link is given in the image itself, which is bit.ly/aws mdu b1c3 aws mdu b1c3. So do it right today and get a chance to win 50% discount on the certification voucher. uh, Talking about why exactly we plan to do this kinds of event, right, this kind of boot camp. So we want to be sure that we've built a kind of a platform for networking with AWS experts as well as the beginner. We want to bridge the learning across both the different kinds of audiences. There is AWS content, I mean AWS access to AWS contents, like how need to provide a different kinds of blogs, the links, references, right? So you get those understanding as well as event updates, uh, as well as you get a chance to win swags and vouchers. So similarly, talking about the task 3 which I just mentioned in the previous slide, the quiz, you get a chance. And I see there is a question also around that will when we will receive the email regarding the rewards, right? So for sure you'll get the email if you have answered the right, as well as we'll post the winners on the Slack announcement channel. So please do join our Slack. The link is flashing on the screen. So this way at least you'll get to know whether you have given the right answers or not, and what was the right answers for that quiz. So please, I would urge everyone to join the Slack channel. The link is flashing on the screen, bit.ly/join AWS MDU. That's the link which will help you to join our Slack workspace. So please do join that. And as well as we have the capability, I mean, the certifications and the job and the hiring opportunity via the networking which you will build. What was our idea to build the entire this community, the AWS User Group Madurai? So again, the points are almost on the same lines. We want to build a networking bridge, a platform, so the people can learn together, participate in this journey of learning. They create different kinds of contents like blog, video, reels. So that motivates and come and give a learning exposure across the communities. Zero to hero, it's again meant for all the kinds of people, right, who are the experts, who are the beginners. So for all kinds of all different levels of audience, we want to cater their needs. The interesting thing is the regional language. We not only supports English but Tamil, Hindi, and those kinds of regional languages. Last but not the least, we'll have different kinds of contests and giveaways, like you saw, quiz and today's session, the task 3 which is due. So we have different contents and quiz around that. Again, the link is on the chat, bit.ly/join AWS MDU. That's a Slack workspace. As well as we do post the different kinds of events and notification across different social media handlers, like LinkedIn, Facebook, Insta, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. So please do subscribe. If you're not unable to join Slack, please do subscribe any of our social media platform, but Slack will be our main platform for any sorts of interaction with the organizers, with the experts, and you can share your ideas for the upcoming events, as well as you can learn new what's happening in the community, as well as what are the new events. With that, I want to thank you all. Thank our speaker Neetu for taking out the time from our schedule on this weekend, as well as thank you all the audience for participating in all the wonderful sessions all through our 12 episodes. Please do hold your breath. This is not the end. We have upcoming different doubt solving sessions and a kind of a prep sessions in the pipeline. So this is not the end of the work, the entire boot camp. But yes, this is our last session from a learning perspective. Many more preparation sessions in the pipeline. So please do join us Slack and do follow us on the social media. So that's all from today from me, as well as from our speaker Neetu. Thank you so much for joining and giving us this opportunity to learn together.
Thank you.